वक्त था वक्त मसीहा न किसी और का वक्त मैं नाता तो कोई और ही आया होता.
So I'm just going to quickly go to Saqib now. We're going to cover the second part of the book that we started last week, Min al-Rahman, which is a book which was written by Hazim Maud on the language of Arabic and the importance of it. But Saqib, quickly, let's do this one.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
In his own words, from last week, I'll continue today. After the previous detail, the rest of the piece is in very lucid and elegant Arabic. He explains that Arabic is unique to follow the patterns we observe in nature. Two distinctive features, i.e., the pre-existing grace of God, like the bounties of nature, the qualities inherent in the soil and the earth, the sun and the changing weathers, etc. And the second aspect being human efforts, labor, and deeds, these combine to give birth to the fruit of human accomplishments. To fulfill these two requirements, Arabic has two distinctive words of mercy, Rahman and Rahim. Rahman is an Arabic word meaning gracious, and Rahim is an Arabic word meaning merciful. To explain this point, the Promised Messiah writes, it will be noticed that his quality mercy, in accordance with the eternal distribution process, consisted of two manifestations of the divine law of nature. There are to be found two root words in the Arabic language to express that fact. And for a seeker of truth, it would be profitable to follow the rule that the attributes and acts of God which are prominently portrayed in the book of nature should be taken as a standard. That there are different categories which are apparent from the law of nature should be searched for it in the root words of Arabic. And that whenever it is intended to point out the difference between Arabic synonyms which relate to the attributes of the acts of God, one should turn to the division and distributions of the attributes or acts of God, which are apparent from the working of the universe, for the real objects of the Arabic language is the service of divine knowledge, as the real aim of the creation of man is the recognition of creation. 10 categories of Arabic roots. Promised Messiah believed that Arabic was a language of divine realization and designed to fulfill the physical and spiritual needs. He classified the Arabic root words into the 10 categories, calling them as the 10 circles of roots. He described them as follows. First, root words relating to the person of God, arguments for the existence of God, his attributes, his names and acts, and his practices and custom. The second one, the system of root words relating to the unity of God and the argument on behalf thereof. The third one, the system of root words which deals with the attributes and acts and the actions, habits, and situations, spiritual and physical, of man, which, along with their mutual distinctions, are committed by man, which may appear in agreement with or in opposition of God's will. The fourth, the system of root words which constitute as facts of divine knowledge, a perfected teaching from God Almighty, and which relate to the techniques dealing with moral beliefs, rights of God, rights of men, philosophy, learning, punishments, and commandments, the do's and the don'ts. The fifth one, the system of root words which expound the nature of true salvation, the true meanings or methods of obtaining it, the signs by which the saved believers and those who occupy a station of nearness to God may be recognized. The sixth of root words, which explains what is Islam, what is disbelief, what is shirk or polytheistic belief, and which deal forth with the argument for the truth of Islam and refute the objection against Islam. The seventh system of root words, which disprove all the wrong beliefs of opponents. The 8th, the system of root words which relate to the warnings and the tidings, promise of favorable or adverse happenings, which relate to the description of the hereafter, to miracles and the parables, or which are the nature of prophecies which contribute to the strengthening of one's faith, or which relate to the other beneficial subjects or the strengthening of one's faith, or which also relate to the other beneficial subjects or still within the narratives which are meant as a warning, a threat, or a tiding. The system of root, no, the 9th one, the system of root words which relate to the life story and the chaste quality of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessing be upon him, which consist of the high example of the pure life of the Holy Prophet, which also partake of full and forcible arguments in support of the Holy Prophet of the the prophethood of the Holy Prophet. May peace and blessing be upon him. The 10th, the system of the root word which expound the beauties and the spiritual effectiveness of the Holy Quran, and which set out its inherent qualities. In Zone's word, when man was made to evolve through 8 stages of creation, when he was transferred from a state of potential to one of actuality, when he was given in his nature a physical evolution, different shapes and figures, and some of the varieties of creation succeed other varieties, and there happened to be mutual differences and distinctions. The process gave rise to many degrees and stages which required to be described by names. Arabic provided them with their names, and thus completed its gift as in the custom of Brist. Conclusion. This book was published after the death of the promised Messiah in its unfinished form. Even the partial work that has become available through publication shows the strength of argument put forward therein. Had this book been completed, it would certainly have been transformed the study of grammar. The promised Messiah disciples were grieved to see the work of their master in this incomplete form. This motivated Khajwa Sahib, who was the chief assistant and the main discussion partner of the promised Messiah in his research, to write a book called The Mother of Languages, based on the principal research theme of his master. Although this latter book is not as comprehensive in its discussion and evidence as the book conceived by the promised Messiah, but even so, Khajwa Sahib is highly successful in proving Arabic as the mother of languages. This book is highly recommended for reading to scholars in grammar. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, Jazakallah Saqib. So it seems like it's a very, very lengthy book. So we had to do 2 parts of it, and you covered those 10 points very well. So again, it's important we read Arabic every day of our life in the Holy Quran and with namaz as well. But it's also important to know why. And in this book, it explains exactly the beauty and the essence of Arabic. So again, Jazakallah Saqib. Looking forward to doing the next book. Alhamdulillah, another book ticked off.